Welcome. This is Michael Taylor. Many of you are aware that I teach BIT 550 Business Intelligence Technology. I also teach data mining, and I also teach business communication and leadership skills. Um, I'm going to create this asset um, for our students that's currently in the program that haven't started on their capstone and for future students. One of the things that have been very obvious to me over the last year or so, since we've started to get the capstone assignment from our students. One of the things that I have noticed, and students have come to me in BIT 550, is many of them said, just, Professor Taylor, we understand the capstone, but one of the areas of difficulty is being able to, go in and ascertain what are some of the issues and challenges facing our company. We don't seem to have a good grasp of that. And so, what I'm going to do today during this session is I'm going to walk you through um, and a company. And the company I've selected is Cigna. And I'm going to, I don't know anything about Cigna. I haven't done any prior work with Cigna. But what I want this to be is not a canned presentation. This is a real life presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you if in fact I was a student doing a capstone and picked a company, and I picked one from the healthcare industry, Cigna, and I'm going to walk you through to give you some insights and sort of demystify, some of the challenges that many of you face in terms of being able to, find the company that you want to, you have some interest in and you want to do your capstone on, and being able to, you know, do the research online, get to the 10K report. What is the 10K report, and so forth. So, without further ado, hopefully this is going to be informative and insightful, and provide the necessary resources for many of you that you're going to need to do a bang up job on your capstone. So here we go. So the company I'm going to look at is Cigna. So the question really is, um, what what becomes the first step um, in researching the company? And so let's open up a browser here. Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to research Cigna Healthcare, and so my first step is I'm going to um, pull up Cigna up on Google, and I'm going to go into the website. Now, as you can see, as I go into the website, this is the primary, front front page. Talk all about Cigna, and again, not knowing exactly where things are going to be laid out on the website, I just start to kind of peruse Cigna. Let's say let's go to about Cigna. Okay, now there's a lot of good information you can find about Cigna. Okay, um, and you could start with news from Cigna. Okay, um, let's take a look at that news from Cigna. Okay, as you can see, one of the headlines, you know, that you could see right up top there in blue is you can see some of the latest news about Cigna, how Cigna examines health, how health plans, deductible, and spending accounts relate to consumer health management. And they've got a series of things going on right there. Um, but I want to go into I want to see what's in the news release. So I'm going to click there. Okay. Again, I am trying to ascertain where is all of the data that's going to help me frame this company so that I can start to get a sense of what are the critical issues facing Cigna. Because at the end of the day, remember one of the things that for many of you who have taken my BIT 550 course, you know that everything that we do in that course about leveraging BI and data analytics, uh, we just don't do that just because it's a nice to do. We do that because there's an underlying problem within the organization that we're trying to solve. And at the end of the day, you must get to defining a problem within the organization and how that problem lends itself to what you have learned in the program, i.e., leveraging business intelligence technology. And how you're going to leverage that to help solve their problem. So what you need to be able to do is find out what is going on within this organization at this point in time. So a couple of things will begin to help you. Okay. So as I go through here and take a look, I'm looking for anything that may trigger information about what's going on. Let me just do this. Let me just slow down for 1 second. As you look across the top here, right, you got company profile, corporate responsibility, informed and reform, and investor relationship. Now, this is a place that I want you to get very comfortable with here. The investor relationship, because right here is where you will get information about the 10K. So as you press on that, you'll see quarterly reports and SEC filings. Okay, this is where you're going to find a lot of the official filings from any corporation. Okay, many of them have the information under the investor relation. So what I'm really looking for here is the 10K report. Okay, and so I'm going to go through and take a look and see when was the last time they filed the 10K. The 10K is it's more it's like the annual report that they filed every year. It's not the one they send out to necessarily to customers. The one that if you hold stock in Signal in any company, I remember when I was holding stock in GE, every year the annual report would show up on my door. It's almost a scrubbed version of the 10K with not that much detail. A letter from the CEO, kind of giving you an update and apprising you of, what are some of the successes and the challenges facing the firm. There it is. There it is. You see it right here. Fourth quarter 2014 form 10K. Boom. Okay. So here it is. Now this is one of the documents that if you are working on a private company, then you may not get it. They will not have a 10K because there's no filing requirement. But if you're doing a public company, they all have to file a 10K. Okay. Now, this is a wonderful report. This was one of the first things that you should get your hands on to kind of sort of level set what's going on in the company, and they will tell you what's going on in the company. It's not the end all be all, and it's not where you should stop, but it's a good place to begin understanding what's going on with the firm. Okay, so here we have the 10K, and as we scroll through the 10K, you get to the table of contents and you will see the overview, the global healthcare, global supplemental benefits, group life, investment, regulation, and the whole 9 yards. And as you scroll through this document, um, if if you are unfamiliar with the industry, this is a great place to start. It starts to lay out the industry. One of the things that we don't see a lot of or we see it very rarely in the capstone. I like to when I read a capstone, one of the things I like to do is I like to see um, sort of an industry overview. What's going on in the industry? Okay, so if you're doing it on healthcare, I would like a little something that kind of encapsulates and gives me a feel for what's going on in the industry, and then you can go straight into that particular company. So when you look at the 10K, they will start to tell you. Um, about the company. They will start to tell you about, the industry. They will talk like right here. You could see healthcare reform, um, other types of maybe the global healthcare industry. What it what segment constitutes the industry. They talk about principal products and services, and as you continue to read through, um, they will go through and they will kind of lay out for you and set the tone about what's going on in the industry. They'll talk about technology and a whole host of different things. This is just a great place to start. If you know nothing about the healthcare industry and you pick Cigna, this is a great place to start, right? They talk about markets and distribution. Again, they talk about, we offer healthcare and related products and services, customer segments and markets. There it is. Um, so you start to get a sense of what's going on in the industry. The next thing that they talk about is competition and industry developments, right? Again, another good place to get information about what's going on in the healthcare market. Um, and you can start to, come to terms with that as well. Okay. Now, so you keep going through. So you've talked about, we've got the competition industry developments there. That's another good piece of information. You read that, you take copious notes, um, and you continue to go down here. There's a whole section where they go into detail about markets and distribution, pricing and reinsurance, competition. They will go into a lot more of the competition, industry developments. So as you can see, as I scroll through here, I don't want to spend too much more time on this. I think you get the gist of it. As you go through this document, you will find that it starts to you know set the tone, and the give you kind of a wonderful overview of the industry, and they will also start to get into um, all of the critical issues. As you can see here are all the risk factors. They talk about that. As you can see, our business is subjected to substantial government regulations, which is all true. And you can go through and you could find all that wonderful information, and that is crucial. Okay, so the 10K is a good place to start, but it's not. Again, I don't want you to stop there. So you take the 10K and you say, okay, one of the things that we talked about back in your mastery course, we talked about developing your personal learning network. So in your learning network, when you find articles and stuff like that, you can append them to your personal learning network, or um, what I would normally do, at least what I did in the past, and I still do today, is if I find a document that talks about the industry or the company, I would bookmark it, number one. But if I have any documents like this that you can download, I would download that and put that in my folder. So now I know I have it. Okay. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back to Cigna. So so news about healthcare reform. What's really going on with that? Right. So there's lots of stuff that you can find on the company's website. But I want to do some other things. Okay. Um, Again, we don't exactly know what we're looking for, so let's do this. Okay. At this point, I have some windows open here, but you know, um, here's Cigna's use of business intelligence. Okay. Again, you would have to assume this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Big data and data analytics, I don't think is anything new to this organization. So I'm just gonna just Google it and see what comes up, right? Um, and so I'm looking for information that tells me what it is that they're doing. Okay. Um, so I look through here. Look at this. Look at this. Now it's a little dated, right? It says July 26, 2007. Okay. So it's a little dated. However, I'm less concerned about the dates associated with it. I want to know what they've been doing. Okay. I can always find up to date information, right? Um, but we know that this happened in 2007. So I'm in the process of sort of consolidating information. So I want to read this. Cigna turns to business intelligence. So Cigna Healthcare is deploying SaaS. So now I know at least I know in 2007, now it's 8 years ago, I know that they were using SaaS. Okay. So at least I know that. Okay. And nobody just uses SaaS because, they're using SaaS because this is an organization that is already starting to transition to understanding, deploying, and using data and data analytics to get a better handle on critical issues that's ahead, not only for them but as it relates to the industry on a whole, right? So I know this, so I go down and I said, okay, good. Here's a wonderful article, right? As the industry observes further enrollment in consumer-directed healthcare, the ability to deliver timely and relevant care and outcomes information will be even more critical to demonstrate value. Okay, so here you're starting to get a sense that what they're doing. Okay, so I would bookmark this article, or actually I would probably cut and paste, find a way to print this article and put it into a PDF file and then put it in my folder, right? So this is information here. All right, so that's good. That's one piece of information. Okay, I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna type this in here. So Cigna's um, again, I'm just typing stuff in here because I want to know what else is going on, right? Um, right. So we've got that. Now I see here in 2013, um, understanding Cigna's evolving digital health strategy. That might have something, but as I continue just to kind of scroll down, I'm in what you call the brainstorming session, right? I'm just looking for stuff that's going to help me paint a picture, okay? And so Cigna Big Data and Healthcare Analytic Forum, okay? I don't know what that is, but let's click on it and take a quick look, see what that's all about, right? They have a 30,000 health data innovation challenge. Cigna is introducing a new web application programming interface, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what we're looking for, right? Man, and they're telling you all of this different kind of stuff here. Good, good. All right. That may have some relevance to what I'm trying to do, may not, right? Um, okay, so I want to go back. Leading a healthcare company to a big data promise. Implementing big data initiative, okay. Creating a more sustainable system for information. Big data can improve value for healthcare savings plan. Okay, here's something, big data's big future in healthcare by the Motley Fool. This was in 2014. So I like this, right? So let's take, well, before we take a look at that, big data can improve value of healthcare savings plan. Okay, that's another piece of information. Let's Cigna. I heard somewhere that Cigna might be. Let's talk about consolidation. Okay. Okay. So there is some documentation here, how Obamacare fuels healthcare market consolidation. Consolidation in the healthcare will continue in 2015. Okay, if that's happening, what's driving that? Okay, so I want to know. According to the Moody's Investor Service, There's lots of stuff going on. Um, the larger profit HCA. Okay, again, all I'm doing is I'm just trying to find out what's going on. Um, Healthcare consolidation on the rise. Okay, if it's on the rise, tell me something. Tell me what's going on. Okay, mergers and acquisitions, increases in the healthcare industry. By whom? Who's merging with whom? Okay, all right. Nothing there that really, the trend towards mergers and acquisitions. So it's talking about it, but it's not giving me anything that I really want to explore further. Um, okay. So then I can come back here and say, okay, so I just typed in, I just typed in what are the critical issues facing Cigna, right? And immediately I get some Cigna says Anthem proposal inadequate and not in the best interest. Um, Update Anthem to acquire Cigna for $54 billion. Now, this is great information, right? So, right here, by just typing in what are the critical issues facing Cigna, I'm able to ascertain a couple of things. There's an acquisition proposal that was on the table where Anthem is has made an offer for Cigna, and now Cigna is responding that it's inadequate. Okay, so it's probably not rich enough, and probably doesn't have a lot of to the extent the goodwill that they think they have. Built up in the company. You know, you could look at all the financial analysts and the people who who follow the industry and the investment banks who are going to put a valuation on the firm are going to say, well, the EPS, the earnings per share of the company is this, and then it's a premium, and then as the owner, you can say that's not good enough, right? Um, and then so this is probably what's going on. But let's click on it and see what's going on. Okay, so and this happened. This was June 21st, 2015, right? Business Wire, Cigna Corporation confirmed today that it received a high conditional non-binding proposal from Anthem, right? Um, and they are not excited about it. Um, so as you go down and you read through, one of the things I like about when there's an acquisition or a proposed acquisition on the table, the acquiring firm is always going to go into detail as to why this firm and the integration of the two organization is going to be beneficial. It's the whole argument that 2 plus 2 equals 6, right? And that's kind of like how they think about it. It must go beyond, and we all know 2 plus 2 is 4, but when you are doing an acquisition in the marketplace, you're always looking for the added benefit. You could take this company, and once you integrate it with yours, not only does it give you access to additional markets, additional customers, um, but you get economies of scope, economies of scale. You could impact the cost structure because you have duplication of efforts. Everything comes under one umbrella, so you bring everything under a bigger tent, but all of the back office operations will only increase on the margin. So there's a little bit, but then you have so much duplication, and obviously you all know the next thing is you have a reduction in force and so forth. But this is good stuff. This is where you want to find out what it is that Anthem is trying to accomplish. Okay, and so the other thing that I would strongly suggest to you is if and when you do see an acquisition on the table, don't just look at the company that's making that's being acquired, but also take an opportunity to look at the one that's being acquired, because you'll find out they'll start to tell you some of the things that makes this such an attraction for them. Remember, they're the one that's going to be paying the premium. So the company paying the premium is always going to give you some insights into what are some of the things that they're trying to do with the acquisition, and they will talk about that. Okay. All right. So that's so that's one thing. Let's see what else we can find. Okay. Again, don't be afraid to just type in, whatever, you're looking, right? Anthem, Cigna. Look, okay, let's see. What is this all about? Let's find out. It's a PDF. Okay. So sometimes one of the things that I would do is I would type in a whole bunch of stuff, right? Just different word combination, stuff that I think that might be there, that might say something about something that I didn't know of before. And so, all right, so we got 23 pages here, right? And I want to see, here's the consideration: $184 per share, blah blah blah. Okay, leading position in growth market, Anthem. Okay, so you see what I'm talking about? Here's what they're saying, right? Anthem is 38.5 million members, and Anthem plus Cigna, with an international piece of 1%, would go to 53.2 million members, right? Okay, the innovative solution driving affordability and choice. What starts to happen is you start to get a feel for what's going on in the industry and with these two particular companies within the industry, right? So then when you get to the point where you're starting to say, okay, here's what I want to do. Remember, the one thing for many of the students who have had me before, okay, remember one of the things we talked about in BIT 550, we talk about capabilities, right? One of the things that we stressed in business intelligence technology is many of the organization are always trying to improve on one of the core capabilities as it relates to business intelligence, right? It's either they're trying to do a better job around industry knowledge, right, or historical knowledge. In other words, they have they historically they have a lot of data, but they haven't really done anything with it. It's all over the place, right? So they're trying to make sure that they can take the data, put it in. Maybe they're talking about getting a new enterprise data warehouse, and they're going to take all the data and some of the things we talked about. They're going to move all of this to a new enterprise-wide data warehouse. We also talk about data integration. We talked about how, again, you got two companies here that are coming together. There are going to be lots of duplications. There's going to be a lot of customer data. The technology may be different, so they're going to want to be able to integrate the data. So another capability is, how do we do this? What is it? What are the implications for the two disparate IT organization? They're going to be different, right? When we first started looking, we noticed that Cigna was using SaaS. Well, we may find out that Anthem historically have been an information builder company, or they may be an IBM shop. We don't know that. So we don't know what inherent challenges it's going to present for Anthem once the acquisition, in fact, if the acquisition does in fact take place, right? And so the other thing we talked about was insight creation, right? They talked about that. If you go back into the 10K, they talked about how are they going to innovate? How are they going to, going forward, provide sort of innovative healthcare for the future? What does that mean, right? What does it mean in terms of and what impact is the Affordable Care Act? What what nuances is that going to bring to the table for these companies? And the other thing they talked about, that Obamacare is sort of facilitating or is the impetus for consolidation. Well, why? Okay. And so when you talk about inside creation, you want to talk about how all of these things will present a future state that will now make it better or easier for us to be able to now use that to do segmentation, to talk about new product development, new growth opportunities, and so forth. And the other thing that we talked about in BIT 550, for many of you who've been in my course, and for the others, don't be alarmed. You shouldn't be you wouldn't necessarily be engaged with this particular asset um, before before coming to my class anyways, because this is when you really start to think about your capstone. But we also talked about the presentation layer, right? What are you doing with the data, and how, maybe they have the data and they just haven't had a way or the means or the technology to be able to put it in a format where people, the end users within their organization, could not only present the data, but could also put the stories behind what the data is actually telling them, right? So we talked about presentation layer, how best to do that with new technology like Tableau. Is that a vehicle that they're going to use going forward, because they have now all this data and they believe that Tableau has made that, has taken that next step, and they want to do that. So remember, those are the four things that we talked about, right? We talked about um, the sort of the historical archiving and gathering of data. We talked about data integration. We talked about insight creation, and we talked about presentation layer. All of this stuff is talked about in my course. If you've had me, this is obviously nothing new. Okay, so moving right along. So you kind of look at this. All of this is starts to build, right? We're building the story about this organization. Now, this is Cigna, but this, again, what I'm describing and walking you through here, um, I could do the same thing for Pepsi. I could do the same thing for AT&T Wireless. I can do the same thing for Bank America. I could do the same thing for Disney. So this, it really doesn't matter if it's in the healthcare industry or if it's you know an industry that we haven't talked about, or it could be an industry that you're familiar and comfortable with. Could be financial services, could be manufacturing, could be telecom, it could be pharmaceutical. So there's a whole host of things that you could be looking at. You also, too, in the entertainment field, you might want to do something in sports. This stuff is also equally applicable. Also, energy, you might want to do something in the energy field. We've had students who have tried to take on some of the big oil and natural gas companies. Okay, so this approach has really nothing to do with you could take any company and just sort of go through and find what you're looking for. Okay, so let's put this aside. I also, I cheated a little bit. Um, and I want to see if I can. Here it is. Cigna. Okay, let me see here. Okay. Okay. Here is another document. Best healthcare insurance companies, and it kind of goes through Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, Kaiser Permanente, Humana, Cigna, and Assurant Help. And again, these are all of these are just documents that will help you put some of this information um, in perspective. What's going on? Let's go back to my little search here. Okay, that's not what I want. Let's go back. Okay. Um, Here's a document I found, Cigna strategy report. Again, I found all of this stuff on the web, right? All because all I did was go into Google and just type Cigna, healthcare, Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, um, whatever. Just keep going, and Google will generate things that will be able to help you. Again, you could see here that they give you a nice executive summary. Cigna. Now, let me just pause here for 1 second. Now, please don't let me see you guys doing Cigna just because of you have this asset, okay? But in your capstone, I would if you were doing a capstone and you were going to do it on Cigna, I would just delight in an executive summary of this nature. Okay, Cigna is a global healthcare company. They provide integrated health. They have significant position in the U.S. health insurance industry. You see, right here, you kind of set the tone and the context for Cigna as an organization. Okay, now I think some of my colleagues would agree. We don't want you to to the nth degree about about Cigna. We get it. You can synthesize this and boil this down into two wonderful, maybe three, if you think it's relevant, right? I always tell students, when students ask me and they say, Mr. Taylor, I have a resume and it's 5 pages long, and everybody tells me my resume is too long. And I say to them, they said they want me to cut it down to 1 page. And my response to them is, and there's a bit of a digression here, but here's the point. If a resume is boring and informative, I don't care if it's a half a page. It's going to meet with the same fate in the garbage. If you have a capstone and the executive summary is 3, 4 paragraph, if well written and done well, it will never be put down. The same thing with a resume. If a resume is well written and has great information, the fact that it's 4 pages, 5 pages, irrelevant. A good candidate is a good candidate. I will never, and I've never seen anybody knock a candidate because, well, he got 5 pages. Now, 5 pages of just pure rubbish is 5 pages of rubbish, but 1 page of rubbish will meet the same fate. Okay, so it's like a good book. When you read a good book, you don't say, well, it's a good book because it's 50 pages. Well, it's a good book because it's 350 pages. A good book is a good book. And so if it's 1,000 pages, if you're enjoying it, it's a good book. Okay, so don't get hung up on that. Be insightful and teach your audience about your company, your market, and the solution that you're proposing. If we can get into it, we will not even know that we've spent X amount of time looking at your document vis-a-vis something else. Okay? All right. Now, notice in this one how they move from sort of like a 30,000 foot view, and then they went down into the company background, right? Okay, so they did some of that here. Again, you don't have to. I don't need to know in 1807. Don't need to know all of that, right? But there's stuff there that you might read and like and think it's relevant. Okay, again, everything should be pointing in the direction of I am trying to illuminate the current state of this organization and why I think they're a great candidate for what I am proposing. So once you lay the groundwork, once you lay the foundation and you put everything in context, then you can come back and say, and given the current state of the industry and where they are vis-a-vis competition and the critical issues facing the company, I believe that there's an opportunity here for a BI adoption that involves insight integration. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Okay. And then you go on and you start to lay it out. Okay, i.e., if you say, listen, I really think it's a big opportunity for systems integration. And then you start to tell me, well, Cigna has XYZ infrastructure. Cigna has just acquired, blah blah blah, in certain markets, or they're in 10 United States states, and Anthem is in 12 states, but I've read and I've learned that they have very disparate systems because they've been acquiring companies over the last 3-5 years, and we have to bring all of that in together. I see a huge integration play here. Uh, or you can say that, um, as part of the new Anthem, we are going to create a new marketplace, very similar to what you see when you go on the Affordable Care Act marketplace. We are going to create, um, a similar marketplace. And to do that, this is what we're going to need. We're going to need a new, super duper enterprise wide warehouse. We're going to need this, da, 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 and you start to lay that off for me. Now you're starting to tell me, you're starting to codify the issues and how you believe that the stuff that you are learning as you go through my month, at least as it relates to the month 2 through 10. And along the way, once you leave BIT 550, you should be now in BIT 550, you should be putting together the straw man. And at that point is when you're starting to put sort of the meat on the bones, if you will, and fill it in. Okay. But the thing that I have struggled with, and I struggle with this even in my class, is that the students don't have a sense of what they need to do in terms of going and researching and finding out, okay, what are the issues? Every company today are going to have to address their data strategy at some point. I don't care how big or small you are being inundated with data, and all kinds of data, whether it's unstructured data, structured data, and every company has a data warehouse or a data mart or some form of a repository. Okay, many companies are talking about, how they're going to leverage customer relationship management software tools to get a better handle on things, how they're going to incorporate social media. Okay, those are all new sources of data. Some companies have streaming data. How are you going to address all of these things? They do have them. It is right now in their midst. So you have to get your hands dirty, digging in here on the web and finding out what the issues are. Because one of the things I see over and over and over when I read Capstone is that, they tell me everything about the company. It's like motherhood, apple pie, and the American flag, but they never tell me what is the problem that they're trying to solve. Well, I can honestly tell you that if I don't have a sense in the executive summary that you know what the problems are, then everything else that you have written is not relevant because you still haven't told me how you're going to solve the problem. So you've got to get to problem identification and then come up with a prescription for how you're going to solve the problem. And hopefully you're writing a prescription that's going to leverage your newfound knowledge about business intelligence, and as it relates to data analytics going forward. If you have not laid out a roadmap in terms of how you're going to get from the problem, how you're going to leverage your newfound knowledge of business intelligence and the tools and all the processes that we have taught you, then your capstone will not be successful. And so hopefully this asset will help you as you take that journey along the way. Now, this this training is a step in that direction because many of you can always come back to, you can always listen to this asset, and you can say, okay, I got to go back and listen to what Mr. Taylor talked about in terms of flushing out the issues and where I should go, right? So again, let's just do a quick recap. You should be looking at the 10K. You should be on the company's website. You should be in their newsroom. You should be listening to every presentation. You should be trying to get a feel for every analyst report that was written that is not strictly financial in nature. There's some of There's some analysts, and I know you may not be have privy to this, but maybe at the library they might have some stuff because we have some license there. Maybe you can get there's some financial firms that roll up the industry from a competitive standpoint, and they will lay out the competitors, who's got what market share, and they will have a roadmap in terms of where the industry is going, and they will even talk about the critical issues. So if you allow enough time and do the digging and the research, there is no doubt in my mind that you'll have a successful capstone because you will have all of the ingredients. The question that you'll have, that which is a great question to have, is, do you know I can go this way, that way, and then all of a sudden you have an analysis paralysis because you have so many options. That's a better option to have than one that I don't know what to do. Okay, and you can always come back to us. You can always come to me or any of the other faculty members and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? Okay, and then we can help you, and then you can go back and continue doing any additional resource that might be necessary. Okay, so let me see what else I got here. All this stuff is at your fingertips. The only thing that you need to do is to, you know, just be willing to roll up your sleeve, um, and go do the digging. Okay. All right. So one more. Let's take one more look. Right. And going. I'm just going into Google. Um, okay. So again, just go down through it. How big data impacts healthcare? What? Harvard Business Review. Um, Healthcare turns to big data analytics for improved patient. Listen here. Listen to that. Doesn't that sound like something? Let's go. All right. So let's. There's so many things here. Big data revolution in the U.S. healthcare, accelerating value from McKinsey. McKinsey, that only the preeminent business consulting and strategy firm in the world. Okay, this is an organization that every CEO and chairman of major 500 companies are in their hip pocket, so they know what's going on because that's the history of McKinsey. Okay, so a great place to find out what are the issues, right? Big data revolution in the healthcare industry, accelerating value, right? Gotta have some good stuff in here, right? Right care, right provider, right value, right innovators, the pathway in action. They're gonna talk about it all, right? So those are the things that you could be accessing right away, right? So read a little bit about that. Here's another one. I like this one even better. How big data impacts healthcare. Harvard Business Review. Okay, the speed and scale of the challenge and demanding facing the healthcare industry. Wonderful, wonderful piece of information to have at your disposal as you continue to try to, um, when you first start, it's like you're everywhere. And as you start to get more information, so in a way you start off, it's almost like boiling the ocean, right? But you don't want to stay in that phase too long. You want to bring it in, right? So the ocean's a big place. If you can start wide, right? So you want to cast a wide net, and then as you close it in, you realize that the net's got a lot of good stuff in it, right? You bring it together, and then you bring it up, and you start to sift through it and figure out what it is that you need to get. What is driving the push for big data? It's simple: the demand to create more value in healthcare. What does that mean, right? The healthcare system of today is based on fee for services and reimbursement for activity, all these different kinds of things. This is a great document. So what I would do, boom, I like this document. This is something I want to read later. I'm going to go to the print command. Watch what I'm doing here. Bam, PDF, save as. It's going to tell me, right? So Harvard Business Review, right? Big data. Boom, I'm sending it to my desktop, right? So I've got this document now. It's mine, right? Nobody can take it away, right? Um, and then you go down, just take a look. IBM Analytics for Healthcare. What is IBM touting? Big data healthcare analytics startup. See, 60, what? 161% for a startup data analytics? What's that all about? What they doing? What are they offering the healthcare industry that everybody's investing? Okay, I want to know, right? And that's a great way to find out what's going on because a lot of companies who are in the cutting edge, a lot of times the companies that they're looking for that revolutionary um, technology, the stuff that we call disruptive technology that's really going to start to differentiate them vis-a-vis competitors, they're always going to be looking at those young startups that heretofore have not um, brought their product fully to market. Everybody doesn't quite know about them, and they can get a jump. Sometimes what they'll do, they'll even be one of the initial stage funding arms because they recognize that that's a technology that's going to be an enabler for them later on. So there's lots of good stuff here. Always want to look at, if you can, find out who are some of the venture capital firms that invest in healthcare driven industry, and just Google it. Just keep Googling, and maybe you'll get to a website that will have a little bit more information that will take you to another website. But again, just don't be encumbered. Know that this is going to help you. Okay. And you once you get some of that stuff started, then you can be about the business of getting things right. Okay. So all right, so let me go. Let me sort of remind you of some of the stuff that we talked about. Again, one of the things that you learned in my class, right? I talk about the technical architect overview. You always want to, again, source system, right? Remember, we talked about the back room, we talked about the front room, we talked about the presentation layer, which is where you can have your new enterprise data warehouse. Um, and that's where you can keep all your atomic data. So if you're Anthem and you're merging with Cigna and you have all this information, you can take all that data and boom, you can just put it right there, right? And we talked about it's probably going to be all in different languages, some proprietary. You take all of that, and you could now, with the whole ETL system, whether you get something off shelf, these organizations are huge. They have huge IT organization. They'll figure it out. Boom. The BI application on the front room, that's what you're going to be using, whether it is Tableau, Pentaho, Information Builder, SAS, whatever that's going on there, and your source system. Always remember your source system. Many times I read Capstone and it doesn't have any mention of what data you're going to use. Um, well, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't understand that you need to be incorporating your source system. Make a chart like this or a diagram like this that shows exactly what you're thinking. It doesn't have to be accurate, you know, because you are thinking critically about how you're going to get this thing to work and how you're going to add value. Okay. Um, and remember, we talked about this, right? And I talked about organizational memory, the BI capabilities. We talked about information integration, insight creation, and the presentation layer. So those are the four capabilities we talked about in our class back in BIT, Business Intelligence Technology, BIT 550, right? You always want to get back to that, okay? Because this is one of the capabilities that you're going to focus on and say, okay, this is what I am going to propose as my solution. And then you can go you can start to break it down and talk about all of the various components that we've laid out for you in the capstone, right? But I guarantee you, if you follow this methodology, this approach, right, and do some of the things that I have outlined in the initial part of the conversation in terms of the research, what you're looking for, I think you'll be in a much better place. And then you can come back. This is not the end all be all. Then you can come back to us with some stakes in the ground, and this will also be very helpful. You're going to get some of this in my course. If you haven't taken my course, when you take my BIT 550, we're going to hammer some of these stuff home for you. Okay, um, and that should be it. Okay. If you have any questions, you can reach out to any one of the Bims faculty. Rolando Ramos handles the capstone, and you can always reach out to me. This is Michael Taylor. Thank you very much for your time. Bye bye.